Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the DLF Trade Show. I am your host, Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse. He is your host, Addison Hayes at Amaze Hayes. Just one underscore. I think we had to talk at something. We just needed to keep adding them after a while. So, like Amaze Hayes, 4 underscores. That's how you know you're getting big. Every time you pass like a milestone, just add another underscore.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I'm in.
There you go. Nice. All right. Just for understanding that, 2 underscores. But okay, so I'm excited about this one. We just completed week 4. By the time you're listening to this, we're about to going to be into week 5 of the NFL, of the fantasy football season. And now's the time where I think is that line in the sand to me. You know what your team's going to be this year. You can look at your points for, points against, the entire league. Look at the points for, points against. If you use my fantasy league, which is my preferred platform, they even have a power ranking module where you can go and it compares your wins, losses, all play, which is your score versus everyone else's on a given week, and your potential points and all of that stuff. Anything you can use to rank yourself against other teams, and you figure out if you're competing or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I would, if anything, were black and white, life would be so easy, right? Like I'm good. I'm gonna buy players. I'm bad. I'm going to sell everything. There's a lot of shades of gray in between, but you really do need to come to the conclusion of I'm going to try to win, or I'm going to step back a little bit. I'm going to try and build for the future. I'm going to gain some assets. And since I feel like this is the time for that, I thought it would be a really cool idea to do a show, not about a player, but we're going to talk about the value of a 22 first right now. And we're going to try and give it from as many angles. And it's a little tough in this case to do specific players. We're going to talk about specific trades using the DLF Trade Finder because company men, and because it does help to hear specific names, but we're going to try and give you sort of ranges, ideas of what you could and should be spending these firsts on or getting when you are trying to sell a player. It is still a little too early to play the guessing game on firsts. There's so much time for the season to play out in very weird ways, where someone who is 2-2, someone that is 1-3 can go on to win the league. So you don't really want to say early first, mid first, late first. You get that, every once in a while. Oh, this guy won the past 2 years, so yeah, his team hasn't changed. He's probably going to be a late. Okay, cool. This person is 0-4 and they literally don't have a starting quarterback. Cool. That's probably going to be early. There's still so much that can change that it's really tough to do that. So what I like to do is consider random future first, always in the middle. Right? That's the safest thing you can do. You have a 12-team league. It's like the 6 or the 7. You have a 14 team, the 7 or the 8. You want to keep it in that middle range. As the season goes on, you will get a much better understanding of where these picks are going to be. But right now, you just all have to treat them all as middle, just because I think it's too dangerous to do anything else.
Because then you get to the point where you're like, yeah, I'm comfortable sending this guy for this future first, but only if it's like a top 4 pick. And then that guy ends up, sneaking into the playoffs. Some things go his way. He gets lucky with who he plays in, a stretch of games against good matchups and stuff in your league. And all of a sudden that first is the 1.08. And you're like, well, now in January, you're like, I wouldn't have traded that guy for the 1.08. But at the time, at the beginning of October, I thought that would have been the 1.04, the 1.03 based on how his team looked. But, it's still football. We can't predict what's going to happen, this week, let alone in November, December. So, I'm with you. Assume everything is 106, 107, and then just think about what would happen worst case scenario if that guy does better than what you think. And now all of a sudden it's 109, 110. And then obviously you'd be really happy if that guy does worse and it's now 101 to 103. So
yeah, it's all just, making yourself the least bit amount of disappointed with where it ends.
Right.
Okay. So now let's get to the actual trades now. We have a 2022 first in a 1 quarterback league. Well, any league, is 354.8 points. The two trades we have in front of us right now, one is a first for James Robinson and one is a first for David Montgomery. I thought this was a really good range because I don't think you can get, especially after the last two games where James Robinson has gone back to getting his workload, where Carlos Hyde, thankfully, is not the lead running back on the team anymore. He's gone back to a point where you probably can't get him for less than at least the value of a first. Maybe 2 seconds might get you there, but still, that's pretty close. And then David Montgomery, especially now with the injury, it changes a little bit. But I think that makes him obtainable for a first, as opposed to it needing to be more before now. So will someone trade Dave Montgomery for a first? I mean, probably not. But if they're just annoyed that their, RB2 just is going to miss 4 to 5 weeks, maybe they'll do it. It's worth a shot, right? Would you feel comfortable trading a first for James Robinson right now?
We did a James Robinson show back in March. Do you remember that? Or April? It was before the draft.
I remember it happened. I don't remember anything I said.
And I'm pretty sure we were on the James Robinson side of the James Robinson versus the first. And then the Jaguars went and drafted Travis Etienne. And the Carolina Panthers just traded for Stephon Gilmore. Great.
Oh, that actually happened?
That literally just happened as I was talking. On the same day that Christian McCaffrey returns to practice. So go Carolina. Anyway.
All right.
As of right now, though, I would not be comfortable trading a first for James Robinson. I think he's a little bit below the baseline for where I would feel comfortable trading a first for a running back, just because with Travis Etienne returning, I think there's a lot more risks there. I still don't think Urban Meyer knows what he's doing. I mean, it's possible Urban Meyer's not the coach next year. But that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, I think James Robinson is a little bit below that threshold, whereas we mentioned with David Montgomery was already above that threshold. And like you said, maybe that injury just kind of makes it a little bit more possible or attainable that you can trade only one first for David Montgomery. So, there's definitely that line right there in running backs where I think guys like Miles Sanders or even Josh Jacobs at this point, I think are kind of under that line with James Robinson for a future first. And then you get to David Montgomery and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and other guys like that who I think are okay trading a future first for right now.
Okay. And here is, I've been sitting here trying to think of a way to word this and I didn't get it in time. So I'm just going to spit things out and we'll see how it goes. If I'm competing and I still have my first, I am completely fine sending that first away for something that is just for this season. Now,
like
James
Patterson. Just for this season, Russ.
All right. Yeah, but still not first. Okay, so James Robinson right now, he is a workhorse back on that team. That team can't get worse, shouldn't get worse, the offense at least. So to me, that will be you're going to play James Robinson every week. You're going to get very good weeks out of James Robinson. You're probably going to get a lot of mediocre weeks out of him. If I'm competing and I think that's going to be the 112, the 110, I'm completely fine with that. Now, I know that's not everybody. I think that way because I trade a whole lot. And if I want a first, I'll go get a first later. But right now, all I care about is this season and winning. Would I be happier to do it for David Montgomery for that other one? Because, I mean, let's face it. We as a community sort of like Dave Montgomery, we just waves and everything. But that dude's going to be the starting running back in Chicago next year. I mean, he's not getting replaced. So, yes, I would greatly prefer. I mean, I don't know if does it take a first to get CEH anymore? I don't even know. But he's not getting full on replaced. You feel good that you'll be able to use him next year. Okay, so now let's go away from the straight fours and let's go to a very interesting one in a 12-team Superflex league. This is Austin Eckler for a 22 first and Travis Etienne, which I kind of love this idea on both sides. Mm-hmm. Austin Eckler, 26 years old, even though he's on a great offense, tends to miss 2-3 games every single season, but will help you win a championship.
Oh, absolutely. Top 5.
Yeah, we're Eckler people. But on the other side, I have a 26-year-old running back who kind of gets hurt every once in a while, and my team is bad. I got an idea. This is what you do. You go, you get your first, where, let's face it, we're calling this a super flex middle of the first. You're probably going to get a running back with that. In a season coming up where we're probably going to have 3 quarterbacks in the first round and a couple of wide receivers, that should hopefully help a running back fall to the 106. In which case, you're replacing the spot on your bench of a running back. Plus, you're getting a guy who was already worth a first in the first place in Travis Etienne. He was drafted at the 107, 108 also. So to me, the value in the trade analyzer is 548.9, which is the first in ETN, for Eckler, who is a disrespectful 388.5. Because Austin Eckler, easily top 10 running back. I don't care that he's 26. Yeah, but to me, I love this trade. I love this trade for both sides, because if I'm not competing, I want to take a step back, and gaining those 4 years on a guy who is a good, fast pass catcher. And again, we've been talking about ACLs just not being a... No, wait. Travis Etienne, was he the broken foot? Is that what that was? I can't remember.
Yeah, he was Liz Frank. Yeah.
Okay. We've seen, again, the only person I ever remember is Lev Bell, and we've seen Lev Bell come back just fine. Of course, that sample size is miniature, because it's literally just
Lev Bell didn't have surgery. Etienne had surgery.
Okay. Well, surgery's better. It's medicine. Yeah, science.
The metal pin in your foot is better.
It comes out. It's fine. So what do you think about this? What do you think about Eckler for ETN in the first?
I love it. Everything that you said about it is basically where I'm at too. I see the Eckler side of it. I see the 2022 first and Travis Etienne side. Like you said, it's competing versus rebuilding. I think you can replace Austin Eckler with Aaron Jones, with Derrick Henry, those other 26, 27-year-old running backs who are producing at that top 5, top 7-ish level. I think you can just basically replace Eckler for those other two, and I would feel absolutely the same as I do now. And I think it's perfect. You're basically all the way around. I think this is just one of those trades that like both managers are like super happy about, and nobody in the league really should have a problem with it. No. Outside of, I guess, other competitors who are saddened by the team getting Austin Eckler. But
yeah, exactly. It's one of those trades you open your email like, oh, trade complete. Let's look at. Okay, yeah, I get that. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move down to wide receivers, where we have... Oh, you didn't make it as easy as you did last time. Okay, but first we'll talk about a 12-team one quarterback. We're going to talk about a 22 first for Amari Cooper. This is 436.1 for Cooper. Again, 354.8 for the pick. Will I buy Amari Cooper for a first? Oh, yeah. Would I sell Amari Cooper for a first? I honestly don't think so. He's been weirder this year than normal, at least normal for the Cowboys. Like, he's been very roller coastery, but still, he's only 27. He's been in the league for 16 years. And season long, average wise, he's good and doesn't miss a lot of time. So, yeah, I want more if I'm trading away Cooper. But to me, this is like that David Montgomery level where it's just like, yes, I will give you my first for Amari Cooper because I'm going to play him this year. I'm going to play him for the next 3 years. Easy. So that is super easy for me to take. Yeah.
I think the only thing that gives me pause on not trading Amari for a first would be the Dynasty community's, I guess, I don't know if you would call it transition, but the way that we're trending to like super loving all of these rookie wide receivers and just expecting them to hit. And I mean, granted, they have been doing really well, and Jamar Chase has been looking really good through 4 weeks, and Jalen Waddle has also been doing pretty well, and we're still waiting on, a couple of the Moores and Rashad Bateman, but we have high hopes for them. And I just wonder if when we get to that point next year, specifically with Amari Cooper or, the other veterans kind of in his range, like Mike Evans and stuff like that, like, do we see more rookie wide receivers starting to take over in terms of value over, those veterans and stuff like that? Not to say, I mean, you could even take a running back at that point too. Like you said, if it's 107, 108, and you get next year's Javonte Williams, like, I still don't think that you're upset that you traded Amari Cooper for that. So I feel like this is, like you said, I think it's perfect. It's right in that range. It's kind of like David Montgomery. And you might add a late second or a third or some high upside piece or something like that, to the first round pick to even it out. But I have no problems whatsoever on each side.
Okay, but just to answer what you said, because you're absolutely right, it is getting harder and harder to get value for veteran, especially wide receivers right now, just because rookie wide receivers are just doing too well, and it's not normal, and I don't like it. That's a lie. I love it. But yes, during the non-point scoring season, during the draft season, you won't be able to move these wide receivers. You're not going to be able to move Amari Cooper or Mike Evans for anything close to value. But next season, you'll be able to move Amari Cooper for a 23 first, nice and easy. Like, I don't think you will have a problem. You pay the first for Cooper, you lose. Crap. All right. Maybe I do need to take a step back and get younger. You'll get a 23 first for Cooper, I think, without a problem.
I think you're right. I'm on board.
Okay, cool. I like that. All right. Now we're going to talk about same settings, 12 team, 1 quarterback, a first and Robbie Anderson for Mike Williams. Okay.
Hot topic.
No, it's not a hot topic because hashtag Team Clemson big wide receiver. Mike Williams is the truth, except for this week where it just hurt my soul, where he went 1 for 11. But I love me some Mike Williams. I've always loved me some Mike Williams. I do actually really like Robbie Anderson too. So this is a rough trade for me. Let's talk values. Let's talk numbers. I mean, we already know that first is worth 354.8, and let's just say Mike Williams is still only worth 152.6. We need that new ADP to get worked into this trade analyzer, because that will change. That value will go up. Robbie Anderson, man, I don't even know what to do with Robbie Anderson anymore. At this point, he's already 28. He has somehow lost footing in that offense, even though his old quarterback is the quarterback of the team now. It hurts my feelings.
He's a roster clogger.
He is. I loved Robbie Anderson coming in. You're never going to play him on the right weeks. You're going to sit him on the wrong week. It's frustrating. So, I mean, let's face it. This is a first and an injury bye week replacement for Mike Williams. Now, I don't think we can trust the analyzer right now because it doesn't update in 20 seconds. But let's take a step back. Right now, given the fact that Mike Williams is probably, I wish I checked or was smart enough to do this while I was talking, is probably scoring like a top 12 wide receiver right now. At least.
I'm sure he is.
I mean, you give a first for that. And I get Mike Williams is 27, but hey, so is Amari Cooper. And Mike Williams and Amari Cooper are both on very, very good offenses. Oh man, a video came out of, I almost said Brandon Stokely because that's just a name from the past. Brandon Staley, is that the Chargers head coach? Where he came out talking about the play action and how you don't have to be good at running. You just need, like, all of us nerds are just like, yes. And now I love the Chargers even more. So Mike Williams is the X on an offense where the offensive coordinator spent the entire offseason saying, we get our X receiver the ball. And now we have a smart data-driven head coach who knows that means he's going to pass the ball more than run the ball. So like, to me, first for Mike Williams, pretty easy. Oh, you want to give me Robbie Anderson? Sure, I'll take it.
So you would send a first for Mike Williams?
I am biased in this answer, but yeah, I would.
Interesting. So because I threw this in here because I didn't know if I would trade a first for Mike Williams. And just because it's funny, like, we saw him put up 1,000 yards. We saw him put up 10 touchdowns, but he did that in 2 different seasons. So like, now it seems like this year he's putting 2 and 2 together into 1 season, and he is the wide receiver 8 right now. But I don't know if I would, like, he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. Does he stay with the LA Chargers? Does he go somewhere else? There is kind of that dynamic there. It does seem like if he were to stay with the Chargers, that this should continue, and he is kind of acting as a 1A, 1B with Keenan Allen. And, as that kind of progresses more, if he stays, that should just kind of tilt towards Mike Williams more and more. But I don't know if I send that first for him. Like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like at this point, getting a first for Mike Williams is kind of like cashing out. Like, I feel like I'm good there. Like, would you trade a first for Deebo Samuel right now? Or Brandon Cooks? Or Hollywood
Brandon
Brown?
Cooks, no, just because I don't think yet. Brandon Cooks is not fair. That is a completely different story whatsoever. Deebo. Okay, so here's the thing. For Mike Williams and for Deebo at this point, you have to. Now, going back to what I said before, going forward doesn't necessarily matter if it means I want to win this year. Take the name out of it. Would you give up a first for I clicked away, the wide receiver 6 right now? Because that's what Mike Williams is. Yeah, after a game of putting up 2.1 points, he's still the wide receiver 6 on points per game. You know who the wide receiver 5 is?
DJ
Cordarrelle Patterson.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I wouldn't give up a first for Cordarrelle Patterson.
You would not give up a first for Cordarrelle Patterson, but for Mike Williams, I absolutely would. And again, I can fully admit the bias. I love big-bodied wide receivers that come from Clemson. I have just it's a weak spot for me. I've always liked Mike Williams, and his price is held down kind of the way Keenan Allen's was in the beginning of his career. He had a lot of really weird injuries that had nothing to do with each other that got him labeled as injury prone. Like, Mike Williams came into the league with a bad hamstring injury and then a neck injury. And then we don't think he plays. And when he does play, we don't think he does well because he hasn't done it consistently. Mm-hmm. Now he's in an offense that doesn't necessarily go through him, but he's a very big part of it. I think it's take locking to not take that into consideration. Yes, if you want to think about the future, remember we said we weren't going to talk about the individual trades too much. If you want to talk about the future, yeah, him being a free agent coming up muddies it a little bit. But again, if I'm giving up what I think is the 110, 112 for someone that will hopefully continue to give me top 10 wide receiver scoring all day. And I get a guy I like, which makes me happier. 12-team super flex, a first and a second for Cooper Kupp. Value-wise, Cooper Kupp 308.7. The 2 picks are 468.3. Yeah, I do this. I mean, I see, oh man, Cooper Kupp is 28. I mean, I knew he was quote unquote older, but I didn't realize he was that old already. But who cares? It's not a guy that wins with speed. This guy's a very good route runner and very good when plays break down, to be able to find that soft spot in zone. So I don't think age even really matters with him. I'd easily pay a first and a second, again, just because of how he's producing now. And that offense isn't going to change, right? Like, Cooper Kupp is the wide receiver 1.
No, yeah, 100%.
And again, coming off a game of 11.4, which is his lowest. Still by, okay, it's only by 2.3 points from Tyreek Hill. But again, Tyreek had that 5.9 game. Well, Tyreek Hill's another story. Yeah, absolutely. I send those picks. Do I send a first and do I send Kupp for a first and a second? Man, you couldn't get a first for Kupp before the season started.
No,
it was ridiculous. So I got to be honest. That's sticking in my head. I'm sitting here thinking, man, I tried to trade Cooper Kupp away before this season. You're not getting 2 firsts for him. It's just not the way the world works, even though, again, he is the wide receiver 1 right now. So, yeah, I think I'd take a first and second for Cooper Kupp, assuming my team is bad and I want to rebuild.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And because the problem is with Cooper Kupp, if you don't do that, thinking about next offseason, he's going to be a 29-year-old wide receiver. And my fear is he kind of gets Julio Jones or Adam Thielen in dynasty value, because
100%, yeah.
When you hit 28, but then when you especially hit 29, you're at that age where no matter what you do, you would literally be a top 5 wide receiver. Like, we saw Julio be a top 5 wide receiver for like 3 years at age 29, 30, and 31 or something like that, or 28 to 30. And his value went down. His value went down every year until it eventually just plummeted. And now he's only worth a second now. So that's kind of my fear with Cooper Kupp, that if you have him and you're not really competing and you're trying to get 2 firsts, I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't think that ever will happen.
The next one is the tight end equivalent and 1 quarterback, Travis Kelce for a first. The first still 354.8, Travis Kelce 579.5. This is Kelce without a question. I had the argument is a very wrong word because we weren't actually arguing. We had the debate, we had the discussion. The 101 of Travis Kelce in a Superflex league of the 22 draft class.
It's
very specifically
Superflex?
Very specifically in a 1.75 premium league.
Oh my gosh.
Because I deal with, I have 10 trade addicts leagues, so that's the value that comes to my brain. And I put on my trade bait that I want to look to get younger. So some guy offers me a straight picks for Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, which led to many discussions. But, we were going values back and forth. And I'm like, look, Trevor Lawrence was a different beast. Trevor Lawrence was a first round startup pick. Spencer Rattler, Sam Howell, they're not going to be.
No.
Travis Kelce is. If someone took Travis Kelce in the first round of a Trade Addicts 1.75 premium league startup draft, I would not question it for a second. The past 3 years, Travis Kelce has outscored the wide receiver one. He's outscored most running backs and a lot of quarterbacks. Yes, I will take because I don't care that he's 32. There's no reason that this man's going to get worse, even though and especially because he's getting the ball thrown to him by arguably the best quarterback in the league in Patrick Mahomes. So would I trade the 101 for him? Probably not, because I would feel weird doing that. But it's going to take more than the 101, and even in a Superflex league in the 22 class, to get Travis Kelce off my team.
Even that's in a tight end premium. What about a normal one? I think in a normal PP, I think
no, the normal one. Then normal one. I'll take the 101.
Yeah,
because I mean, the 0.75, I created that because I didn't think 1.5 was enough. So 0.75 to me was either a good premium or it's a little bit too much. In which case, I want the little bit too much.
Well, I have Kelce in a 2 tight end premium, and he averages like 35 points per game. So.
Yes, so you win.
Yeah, I think this is 100% Kelce. Name, just for reference, name me all the tight ends that you would trade a first round pick for.
Okay, see, here's the problem. None. There's going to be guys I can't afford, which is Kelce, Waller, Hawk, Pitts.
Okay, so that's
Kittle.
4.
Sorry, blanked.
Like if someone offered you one of those 5 for a first, you'd be like, okay, done.
Oh yes, I would snap that up in a second.
Okay. But then it gets
after
to...
that, no one's consistent enough for me to want to spend a first on.
No Fant, no. Dallas Goedert,
Nope.
Mark Andrews. Did you say Mark Andrews?
Nope. I'm not. I've never been that big of I'm a fan of the player. Don't like him on the Ravens.
And I think that's it, because you literally can't name anybody else that would even be in that conversation. Like you get to like Mike Gesicki and I mean Gronk is up there in production, but you're not spending anywhere near a first for Gronk in Dynasty. It has to be those 5. That has to.
And you're not going to get them for a first. So, I mean, maybe in a one quarterback
Hawk for a first.
Not in a non-premium league, maybe. I think
you still could in a 1.5, especially after what he did the past 2 weeks.
Then go do that. Anyone listening, if you can get Hawk for a first in any sort of premium, go do it. Okay, we got some QB equivalents. Jared Goff, 12-team Superflex. Jared Goff for a first. And Demetric Felton. Wow, this is actually kind of surprising. Jared Goff in a Superflex league is only worth 123.6. Jared Goff is a 26-year-old starting quarterback on a team that probably won't go out of their way to draft a quarterback just yet.
Mm-mm.
And Goff is, hold on, let me hit the average button.
He's QB 16.
QB 17.
Yeah,
that's total points. I like going points per game. He's averaging 21.55 points. So he's that middle of the road, that safe, dependable, but he has a ceiling. His week 1 was 33 points. I'd send a first for that in a league I'm competing in. Again, it's one of those things where I think he'll be good this year. I think not much is going to change in Detroit next year. But after that, okay, maybe you lose out. That's fine. I'll take 2 years of low-end QB1, high-end QB2 for a first and Demetric Felton pretty easily. Now, if I'm trading it away, would I trade Goff for just a first? Because sorry, Demetric Felton, and your 18 points. I don't know. Yeah. It does. I don't feel good about it, but I'll do it. If my team is bad and Jared Goff doesn't get me anywhere, if you're on a bad team, Jared Goff keeps you in the middle and you don't want to be in the middle. So yeah, I would send Jared Goff away for a random first in a super flex league. Yeah.
This trade is like John Hogue, like yelling in my ear, every starting quarterback is worth a first.
Yes.
And that's what this is. Just to kind of wrap my head around paying a first for Jared Goff, what outside of situation and potential risk with him not having his job in like 2 years, but like, what is really the difference fantasy wise on a week to week basis between Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield? Because like you say, oh, I paid a first for Baker Mayfield. You're like, sweet, Baker Mayfield. But then you say
the only difference between them is security.
Like, it has to be it, right?
Because I mean, think about it. The Browns are a team that, if they could not throw the ball, wouldn't throw the ball. I mean, like, they want to be a run first team. The Lions can't be a run first team because their team is so bad. Just the difference is having Landry and Odell and Anthony
Jared
Schwartz.
Goff is averaging 19 fantasy points right now. Baker Mayfield's averaging 13.8.
Yeah. So now let's go down to the horrible. What? Okay. So horrible. Okay, this is going to be a lesson in overreacting. 222 firsts. Okay, sorry. 12 team, 1 quarterback. 2. I said 2. 22 first. 2 2-2-1s. And Cam Akers for Rondale Moore. Okay, let's hash this out for a second. Even if Rondale Moore was your wide receiver 1, I know literally one person that had Rondale Moore as their wide receiver 1 coming into this year, in the draft season. Yeah, I don't care. You're not giving up 2 firsts for that. Like, are you going to give up 2 firsts and, okay, Cam Akers, so who knows what the hell he's really worth these days. But, like, are you going to give up 2 firsts for Jalen Reagor? Like, that's what you're doing right now, giving up 2 firsts for Rondale Moore, a guy that showed 1 game and is clearly in a 4-time split at wide receivers in the Cardinals.
Oh, I just looked at this league. This guy, the guy who gave up the 2 firsts, which ones are he giving up?
Does he have like 12?
He's not giving up his first. Okay, I was gonna say, but he is currently in last place. The guy who got Rondale Moore and gave up the 2 firsts, but the first that he's giving away are, I don't even see them.
You could tell me it's the 111 and the 112. It's still too much.
I know. I'm just trying to understand
don't justify
something. And what's even weirder too is that this is like the generic of generic dynasty leagues. This is, you start 8 players and one of those is a kicker. Like, this is 1 quarterback, 1 wide receiver, 1 running back, 1 tight end, 1 kicker, and 2 flexes.
Oh, that makes Rondale Moore worth so much less.
So, like, I saw that and I just laughed super hard, and then I laughed super hard at your reaction. So I'm glad that was it.
Well, I'm glad things worked out perfectly. But like I said, we've been going long and I got to get back to work. This has been the DLF Trade Show. Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse. Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes_. See you next time.